Hey guys, Marble Tyler here, back doing another Battlefront 2 beta video. Today I want to review and kind of go over the impressions I've gotten from the beta. And overall, it's pretty good. I think it's a solid game. It very much lives up to the name, Battlefront. So it feels like a Battlefront game, it feels like you're playing with classes just like the original did. Obviously there's some differences, we've evolved since then, but more or less it feels like a Battlefront game, and I think that's a really good sign. Now there are some very important things I want to talk about in this game. And then first of all, there's the gameplay, which the class system, phenomenal. I think it's a good balance of everything that should be in a Battlefront game. I don't think it feels too close to Battlefield. I think it's got its own variety. It feels like a Star Wars game. There's not as much variety as there used to be in the original Battlefronts, but from a balancing perspective and how a game should be these days, everything kind of makes sense. So I'm very happy with the class system. The guns are pretty well balanced. Some of them I feel like aren't as useful as others depending on how your playstyle is. But for me, that might just be what happens. I mean, that might be just how I played, how I use the guns. And all the abilities feel okay at best. I mean, some of them are a little cheap in my opinion. The barrage feels like super underpowered. Meanwhile, thermal detonators will absolutely annihilate you. The shield is ridiculously good when you're using the heavy class. You pop that thing open and you can just take a ton of hits, and it feels awesome, but it can be, overcome. So that's not too overpowered. I've been able to drop a shield and kill the guy 1v1. It's pretty fair as long as you know what you're doing. I think it might get tuned down a little bit. Maybe it should get tuned down a little bit. Overall, the maps in themselves were okay. Naboo was awesome in terms of layout, and it feels very genuine to the movies. The issue being, because it's genuine to the movies, it feels like there's not a ton of gameplay variety. There's not a ton of cover areas, and overall you end up just shooting down a lot of corridors and open spaces, which isn't a bad thing. I feel like it's a very good balance of, some tight corridors, some inner corridors. There's not much you can do, in my opinion. Meanwhile, the strike map could definitely use some tweaks. I mean, it is super hard for the Resistance to get that artifact out of there. They can get the artifact pretty easy, but once they try to get to that ship, the Alliance's spawn is just right there. I mean, you couldn't really do anything, and so it's not very balanced, and the map could use some work. Maybe that outside routes could use some changes, just to make it a little more fair to kind of get the artifact. I mean, I played maybe 10 matches, and I feel like I saw the artifact get extracted maybe once or twice. So there might be an issue there. Starfighting is better than ever. Like, yes, that's how a starfighter should play in Star Wars Battlefront. Feels a little bit like War Thunder, but in Star Wars format. It's awesome, it's epic, there's a variety, there's different classes in themselves. The abilities in there don't feel too cheap. You feel like you can take everything down, except for the star card potentially, where you can have the bomber up to 40% health more. That seems a little overpowered. I mean, that thing already is a tank, and then all of a sudden you're taking way more hits. I don't know how I feel about that so far. I mean, I haven't seen anyone use it, but the potential is there, and so I think that might need to be tweaked later on. Other than that, starfighting is epic. I'd like the missions to be a little more balanced. I feel like the Empire kind of has the advantage, but that also might be me sucking, so just potentially some tweaks there. And then the heroes are great because I feel like they're challenging. Honestly, I was great with some heroes and I sucked with other heroes, but I've seen people rock the heroes, so I feel like it's a really overpowered thing if you're good at it. I mean, you really have to learn how to play them. I mean, if you run in with Darth Maul, you're going to get wrecked, and you just die immediately. All those hard-earned points go to nothing, but if you play Darth Maul right, and you back off, and you're doing all these cover-based things, it's great. I mean, you can absolutely destroy him, so it's really a balance of skill and, abilities. So if you can master them, you can dominate with them. If you can't master them, though, you're going to run in there and die like me. And then up next, we have a very important topic, which is the graphics and audio of the game. Overall, it's a slight improvement over the first one. I don't think there's anything too special going on here. I think it looks really good. I think it's a DICE game, so I mean, honestly, it just looks gorgeous. The graphics is probably at the best games are right now in terms of shooters. Honestly, I don't think there are any other shooters that look too phenomenal. I don't know how this compares to Battlefield 1. That's a bit of a different case, so based on the style and the theme and everything, I think graphics are pretty much at their peak. I don't know if they can do much better. Audio, though, is top-notch. I mean, they literally took sound effects from the movies. They took the original sound effects like they did in the first game. It's just on the spot. Whatever era you play, it has those sound effects. So when you're playing, the new movie, the Strike Mission, oh my god, it just sounds like the new movie. I mean, it's it's fantastic. And so I think 10 out of 10 on the sound. You could not have done a better job at embodying the sound effects that is Star Wars. And now, just to kind of wrap this up, a little bit of a conclusion. On the loot box system, there is potential there. I think it could be a great system, but I don't know if it's perfect just yet. I do have some issues with it. First of all, it can be manipulated. I mean, there's going to be microtransactions in this game, so that's going to replace, you know, the whole season pass issue. I get that. But I don't want it to be so, you know, underpowered and overbearing that essentially you have to pay to be able to be good, or it's going to take you 2 months to be on the level of the people that buy. To me, that might be a little too ridiculous. I don't want to see that in this game. So far, right now, it looks like it's going to take forever to get a loot box. Meanwhile, you could just buy it. I don't know how much it's going to cost, but maybe some better rewards, maybe make them cheaper, maybe make it more engaging, or you get more when you do stuff. Just something a little more engaging. I think it's just a little too overpowered. On top of that, I don't know if there's enough variety here right now with the loot box system. Right now, you can't really customize any units besides a couple skins for your heroes. So to me, besides, you know, the star cards, I mean, it looks like they added variety by simply making more powerful versions of the same star cards. I don't know if that's going to be, one, balanced, and two, if that's just going to be enough variety for a loot box system. I think, you know, maybe some emotes in there. I know they have them, but a large variety just like the first game. And I feel like the ability to customize your character might be pretty significant. Like, I feel like if I could change the color of my droid, nothing, you know, too far-fetched. You know, you want it to look like Star Wars. But if you could change it to the varieties we've seen, or the same thing with the clones, you know, we've seen them with blue, we've seen them with red, we've seen them pure white, you know, and obviously we want to distinguish what class is what, but some customization there might be very important just to add variety and take emphasis on, you know, the upgrades and buying into the system so that you're overpowered and you can just dominate everyone else on the battlefield. Overall, like I said, the game feels great. It feels like it lives up to that name. It feels like it's a Battlefront game, and I think that's awesome. I think that's what DICE should have been doing in the first place. And overall, I feel like this game with more content is going to be great. The free DLC is very important. It can make or break a game just like it did Rainbow Six Siege. I know that's a little bit different in terms of competitive, but free updates clearly support a game, doesn't separate the player base, and I think this has easily got best potential for Game of the Year, at least in my book. I mean, I've been looking for this game for a long time, and it's got a lot of potential behind it. I think we're looking at a great game, something that's going to be just blowing away the rest of the competition. But check back to STG, we're going to have more Battlefront 2, we're going to have all kinds of games on here, and with that, we'll see you soon.